It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, starting with Mr. Gaurav Maria, the man who needs no introduction, the force behind creating disruptive franchise strategy for thousands of brands, entrepreneur, author, advisor, innovator, and franchising guru. I have known Gaurav sir for almost a decade now and have had the fortune of witnessing him help multiple brands from various industries achieve multifold growth. Mr. Maria is often addressed as father of franchising and is credited with growing and nurturing the franchising industry from when it was a concept known to few to now when every small and big businesses is looking to utilize this to grow their footprints. We also have the fortune of having Ms. Sonia Chaudhary with us today. Ms. Chaudhary is the managing director for Franchise India Brands Limited and has been in the franchising business for over 2 decades now. She has been instrumental in creating franchise networks for countless brands and is well regarded as one of the greatest franchise experts in the country. Without further delay, I would request Gaurav sir and Sonia ma'am to take this forward.
Thank you, Deepak. And also to introduce Deepak, who you heard is the CEO for Francop. Francop is the oldest consulting firm in the world. So welcome, friends. Welcome to this very special webinar called Scale Up. This webinar is designed to really share some best practices or what I call the journey of franchising. If you are really keen on growing your business, how you should use franchising as the right strategy. And I call franchising as a scale strategy. How can you use that? And if that journey has to be done, what all you need to be prepared on so that you can successfully not only grow your business through franchise, but also able to manage the franchises well. While as Deepak said, we've been doing this for 27 years, and we are, I'd not be wrong to say, we're the most experienced team in the world for handling franchise. We operate in 9 countries. So we're in Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, Bangladesh, India. India is obviously the largest operations we have, but we have operations out of GCC, which is Gulf, both in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And then we have operations in UK, Paris, and North America, where Francop really comes from. We operate under 3 brands. One is Francop, which is an American company. Second is Fran Global, which runs in most of the countries I mentioned. And India, we are known more as Franchise India, while all 3 brands also exist in India. But India, we are very popular as Franchise India, a company which was known to have pioneered franchising business in this country for last 27 years. I founded the company 27 years because I was so impressed by this industry. This is not a small industry, friends. It's a $4.7 trillion industry and one of the few industries in the world which is growing double digit. And India, it's a remarkable success story because of the popularity of franchising, popularity of people to get into their own business, but they want a safer way of doing business, which means that they prefer to partner with somebody. So the whole entrepreneurial demand is so big. And on the other side, there are a lot of companies which want to scale their business in India, and franchising becomes very strategic, especially in India because India is so diverse. It's divided by cultures, language, consumption behavior, distance. Everything is so very different. It's like many countries in one country. So in the complexity of that, you need to have a local partner who can assist you or support you in your franchise journey. So friends, I always say that is a very responsible way of raising capital because it's a great way of capital. And we'll talk about how I see franchising is the best form of capital, but it's a very responsible way because you're now bringing somebody who also have aspiration to make money through your brand. So it's very important. Second part, it's a long-term strategy. It's not really short-term strategy. You have to, when you're thinking about franchising, you need to think long-term because even the first agreement you sign with the first franchisee, you making commitment for years and years that I'm there to support your business and run that business. And this is something which is very important. And I even advise a lot of global companies and I say, if you want to enter India or want to come to any other market, think through that you are going to service that market for many decades to come. It's just not about entering the market. And we have seen a lot of success stories and a lot of failures. I've done over 500 market entries, and I can tell you very easily 100 don't exist. So which means that they entered, they open up stores, locations, and packed up. Look at an example of a company called Wendy's. It's a third largest burger chain companies, but closed operation in India. Look at another chain called Carl Jr., which looks like India is everybody is young and and big burger chains are doing well. McDonald's has done well. Burger King has done well. But Carl Jr. failed and collapsed miserably. Wendy's collapsed miserably, and I can give you 10 other examples which were not able to sustain. Even the iconic brand called Wimpy's, which was a British brand, also packed up from India. Iconic chains which were known for being companies like Nirulas and likes of them don't exist in that format. So why this market? While on one side you see the CEO of Starbucks or a McDonald's or any KFC making statements that they would make this market as the biggest market for them. On the other side, we say similar or formats dying in the market because it's just not about the concept. It's about how it is executed, how you bring your best of operations, and ensure that you have the full package going right for you. It's actually connecting a lot of small dots when you're doing franchising, and if any of the dots doesn't connect, this whole system collapses. So it's very important to do that. Another question which everybody would have in mind is that is it the right time to do it? At what stage you should do that? And we'll talk about that. And also then a couple of other things which we will share in this webinar, it's success stories, what are the best practices, how to safeguard your interest, how to safeguard your brand, how to make sure that you have full control over the operation and structure. But before we do that, I'll give you the flow of this webinar. I'll pass it on to my colleague Sonia. She's managing director of Franchise India, runs a very successful broking business across India and overseas, and comes with 2 decades of experience in franchising. So she will give you a little overview about our journey, franchising journey, and her take on franchise business. And then I'll take over and give you a little overview about 3 things. One, at what stage you should think about franchising. And it's very important, right? Are you really at the stage where franchising is right time for you? Second, if you want to really look at yourself and say, self-evaluate, that is this franchise business right for your company or your brand? That's also going to be my second part. And the third part, which is going to be critical, where I need your lot of questions to come in, is what takes you to be a franchise ready? What you need to really think and develop within your system. It's not necessarily you work with Frank Cop or you do it yourself, but you need to know what have to be done before you call yourself franchise ready. And I've seen 70% of the success of any franchise systems lies in well-developed strategy. Carefully understand. Sometimes you get impressed with the product. I can 100% say Wendy's make better burgers than even McDonald's. Carl Jr. claimed to do the best burgers in the world, but the business models collapsed, right? And there are so many other examples of great product company, but the business was not done. So franchising is all about a system which makes money for others. That's what franchising is. And unless and until you have that system which makes money for others, we are very proud that we did a company called Lenskart. And when I used to give example to old iconic family names in opticals, they say, oh, their product is very cheap. They have a very low quality products for their eyewear. And we have the best product. We get Italian products and this and that. But I used to joke with them and say, whatever you do is fine, but their system makes money for franchising, right? They understood the larger marketplace. They understood the total addressable market. They knew India is young and need affordability, but still need style. And more importantly, the business model was so well designed, and we are proud that we were part of it, that the business model did extremely, extremely well. And it's a couple of $1 billion valued company. So this would be the flow, friends. And now I see a lot of people are already joined. So if you can also share a little background about yourself in the Q&A box. There is a Q&A box at the bottom. Just click that and share a little profile of yours. If you are already franchising, which means that you are somehow franchising your business and you want to improve that system, that's what brings you to this webinar. Write AF and just share your industry. Like, for example, I can say, I'm already franchising and my industry is F&B or whatever that is. Use in Q&A box, just introduce yourself, because then we will be able to give you a lot of examples. But if you are not franchising, but you're exploring franchise, then you can write NF and industry, which industry you come from. You can say, I come from fashion, healthcare, education, and whatever that is. Use the Q&A box. Please introduce yourself so that we know where you're coming from, what is your background. And once we know your background, it'll be much easier for us to take examples from your industry and give it to you. And any other question also you have, use the Q&A box to ask that. Now I'd like to invite Sonia to take the lead and do this piece. So over to you, Sonia.
Thanks, friends. A very good evening to all of you. And I'll request, please make the session interactive. More we understand your business, more we would be able to add value. And also, this would be a short webinar, but generally we do also a lot of workshops, which are full-day workshops that we do with select companies who have seriousness in getting into franchising. So while Gaurav talked about what we're going to cover, I'll talk more about, what our value proposition, which collectively all our group companies bring in, which is Franchise India, FranCorp, and Fran Global, which is our market entry specialist. And also to, maybe extend, before any company even thinks or decides to get into franchising, it is crucial to ensure that it is well prepared and has the necessary foundation in place. Do we want to read? Okay. There's something. So guys, you can keep writing it. If you see any comments, we'll mention your name and also your question. So franchising provides a company the opportunity to be local, but also at the same time scalable and consistent through systems and processes which are built by them. And indeed, a great way a business can be scaled up, because it allows a company to expand the operations without having to directly fund its own expansion, and at the same time minimizing the risk and eliminating the need of excessive capital. So the foundation for franchising is having a sustainable business model in place. And not only that, while it looks like anybody wanting to get into franchising for the very first time would need a business model, but in our own experience of working for more than 2.5 decades, even larger companies, enterprises, corporates who have been into franchising have also tweaked their model from time to time, depending on the market or the stage of business they are in. So coming back to our entities, I would start with introducing FranCorp first. And FranCorp is the consulting arm of the Franchise India group of companies. And FranCorp is the world's largest and the oldest franchise consulting firm, which comes with more than 47 years of experience in the industry. It's a global firm, where the headquarters are in America, and it has worked with some of the biggest names in the franchise industry, names like McDonald's, names like Hilton Hotels, names like KFC's, Hershey's. They're all names that we can all resonate with when we talk about franchising. In fact, FranCorp has pioneered the franchise consulting industry in the world, and it is now present in more than 20 countries. And Franchise India acquired FranCorp in India about 18 years back. And since then, I would also say we are proud to have worked with more than 15,000 companies across all spectrums and all industries, from food to healthcare to retail businesses, wellness services, auto, and across the length and breadth of the country and also overseas market. We are present in about 97 cities in India and 9 countries globally. And we also take pride in being a very important part of their business expansion and value creation journey. And we continue to do so, as we speak. And Franchise India is a 27-year-old enterprise. And at the group level, it is a fully integrated franchise solution company. And we are, in fact, the largest franchise development and distribution company in the world. Right? So over these 27 years, we have also worked very hard, invested a lot of our learning time, money to build and evolve the capabilities at the group level, so that we can add a lot of value to the franchise community, be it business buyers who are looking at opportunities, be it business owners or brands like you looking for expansion. And we've always believed that building entrepreneurship, was the foundation on which Franchise India and all its, the group companies were built, and has been the core driver of our business. And we believe that any company who's looking for expansion typically needs readiness and capabilities, which include, building the right business model, a sustainable business model. Second, you need to also market the opportunity to potential franchisees, dealers, or distributors. And third, which is also equally important, a lot of companies reach out to us. Sometimes they say we have a lot of leads and data, but it's very difficult in terms of how do we manage and reach out to these people, right? So the third part is, how do you capture the impact of the marketing which has been created? So these are 3 capabilities which every company would need in order to maximize their business when it comes to franchising. So our group companies addresses this need through solutions from the specialized business entities, which give a holistic solution to companies who are looking to grow and eventually scale. and which broadly come under the 4 platforms. And in India, our business runs under the umbrella of Franchise India, and globally under the name of Fran Global, which I said is a market entry specialist. So there are 4 platforms. One is the media platform, and we run the largest media company in the country, which gives exposure through a large number of exhibitions, larger exhibitions. When I say larger exhibitions, they're exhibitions that we do. For example, in Delhi every year, the capital of India brings almost about 50,000 people from India and also overseas market looking at businesses. 600 companies would participate in an event or a big expo like that. So we do about 120 small and larger exhibitions every year. And also about 9 exhibitions that we're doing in 2024, where Saudi and Bangladesh we've already done. And the month of February would see Abu Dhabi show, which is happening on 26th of February. So apart from the exhibitions, there's a big exposure that comes through the 3 leading industry magazines, which includes Entrepreneur. It's an international magazine. We are their partners for the entire Asia, and all global franchising companies. If anybody has been following Entrepreneur digitally or you've subscribed to them, you would know all global companies are rated by Entrepreneur, every year, including McDonald's, Subway. All these companies are rated by Entrepreneur. Our second publication is Franchising World, and our third publication is Retailer. Also, our website, which is franchiseindia.com, and also we have websites in Bangladesh, UAE. So every country, there's a domain that we own, and respective, I would say, businesses would be listed on these websites. India alone, we have about 17,000 companies listed who interact over 1 million investors, or I would say, business buyers. Our second platform is largely built for companies like you, which is a scale platform and the webinar, therefore, where we work with companies to make them franchise ready and help them to expand within India and also overseas market, or even in your own domestic market. Say, for example, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, or UAE, if you're looking at expansion, or even looking at entry in any of the international markets. And a third platform is built for people who are looking to invest in businesses. Again, the entire spectrum, which starts from maybe a smaller investment, say a retail investor, to HNIs, to family offices, and even firms or companies looking at even diversifying their businesses, where they look at maybe acquiring an international brand. So all that is something that happens through our investment platform, where we work with business buyers and handhold them through the entire journey of buying a business. And then is our solution for businesses who want to exit, right? So this is an exit platform for businesses, so where companies can sell their businesses, and we do their evaluation, and we find strategic or financial partners for their running business. So at all our group companies, Fran Global, Franchise India, FranCorp, we play a very important role as a catalyst in the entire franchise ecosystem. But we always believe that our responsibility was much beyond, which is most importantly to educate companies on growth through responsible franchising, and work with companies to build a sustainable business which brings value for all the stakeholders which are involved. So there's a small presentation, friends, which we want to run you through, but I'll request once again, we would like to know a little bit more about your businesses, and would also request if you have any specific questions, you can write to us. And if you can also mention the name of your company, brand, and also the country that you come from, that would really be helpful. I see some of you have started to write in. I'll request all of you to please put in your comments. And while we wait for you, I'll let Gaurav take on to present the next piece of our presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Sonia. And if somebody can put the presentation, friends, there will be 3 slides. As I said, 3 different discussion points. One is it the right time for you to franchise? That's very, very important. And I'll give you some examples on that. And then the second slide would be on a little bit of test, self-check, what you really have to see, that are you ready for franchise? And third would be what it needs to be ready before you go into franchising. So, as I said, I mean, as any consulting firm, on our experience of working with 15,000 companies, and I can give you at least 1,000 big success stories. Some success stories actually even surprised me, because they were so modest starts and they've become billion-dollar companies, and just a perfect idea. And the business model was so compelling for franchising that they were able to scale very fast, and they're now multi-billion-dollar companies. And I also have seen large companies, big, large multinationals backed by all the best strategy people, a lot of experience, a lot of depth of knowledge, and had a collapsed franchise model. One such company was Castrol. So Castrol is a global multinational, a largest lubricant company, started a program in India called Castrol Bike Zone. And these were, a small franchise where people can bring their two-wheelers and can get oil change because people were not preferring Castrol. And on that, just because they wanted to increase their market share in the two-wheeler market, they created a business model which had no fees, and they were eventually not able to sustain in the market. While we sold a lot of franchise for them, but these franchises were not able to sustain because the whole dynamics and the business modeling was not right. So it's very important that before you jump into franchising, you need to ask yourself, is your business model really ready to be scaled to other markets? And would it get the same level of response for both your product and service which you're getting in your location? Third, do you have enough margins in business that you can share with another stakeholder coming in between? So today you might be you and your customer, and now you bring in a franchisee in between. And sometimes there is a two-tier franchise, which means you give it to a master and master gives to a unit franchise and then furtherly to the customers, which means now there are four stakeholders. So is there a business model having that kind of margins that you can afford to bring in other stakeholders and every stakeholder gets their what is expected for them? So these are very important parts to do that. And this is where it starts when Sonia, Deepak, and I would sit with any client and we'll ask right questions. Deepak and I have just finished a meeting with very aggressive entrepreneur who visited our office, and he was all over to want to go. He wants to make 100 franchises in no time. And my questions were that, how stable is your business model? He was very aggressive in his pricing. Can you continue to get that pricing right? Because it's always, I mean, there's no brainer. I always say that in the strategy room, if somebody comes and say, decrease your price to 50% and you will sell more, this is not a strategy, right? If anybody comes and say Apple phone at 50% price, would it sell? Everybody would hold Apple phone in the world, 100%, everybody. But does Apple wants to do that? They don't want to be a Oppo or a Vivo or XYZ. They want to be Apple. The strategy is that they are high margin company, right? And they high margin, highly innovative, super product kind of a positioning. So you cannot please everybody. Everybody knows that if he brings prices down and bring Apple at a $200 pricing, everybody in the world would have Apple, 100%. Every single person who's having a phone would have 100% Apple. But that's not a strategy. That company knows it. So sometimes just to please people, make business model which would just attract people but not able to sustain is a dangerous idea. So when is the time where you start looking at franchising? The first question you tell yourself, if your product or service has a greater demand in the markets you're currently not servicing. I meet so many companies and they take so much of pride to say, oh, people come all the way to my place and they consume my product. And then I laugh at that and say, look, your product has demand there and you're servicing just the fans because only fans come to you because they love your product. Otherwise, people would not consume. Like, for example, if you like a old mithai shop in some particular city where you visited, then you will always carry that for your family or friends or anybody. But that doesn't mean that I'm consuming that on a regular basis. I'm just a fan of that product. So fans are not subscribers. If you really want to build subscriber base, you need to be there in the market the subscriber wants to consume on a certain frequency. So that's what intelligent companies have done. I know so many people. There are a company which we are advising now to scale, and it was actually the much older than Haldiram was started. And they always used to take proud that we were much older than Haldiram. Rather, one of the co-founders of that brand, son is Haldiram. So they used to tell the stories of, look, we are a 100-year-old brand, but they never grew. And now you see and compare yourself with a brand which came 30 years after you or 40 years after you and become a multi-billion dollar company and you left the goal. So because you never went out of your comfort to the markets where you might have demand. So that's the first question you need to ask. Second, your immediate competition has taken the lead, but you have a greater product. And this is shame, right? So sometimes we see people coming from nowhere and they become bigger than you, and you had a greater product than this company. I'll give you an example. I used to go to a company in Calcutta, and he used to tell me always that the product which Manevar is selling, Manevar is our friends from outside international, because I see a lot of people from Sri Lanka and other places join. Just to give set example, Manevar is the largest ethnic wear retailer in this country, a public listed company. And they have over 700 stores in India. So when I started meeting the other companies, competition, he used to say, my product is much, much greater than Manevar is doing. And even Manevar's product is done in my factory. Now, that was a claim he used to do. And that time he was much bigger and never focused on retail. And Manevar was absolutely focused while he was sourcing product from the same market, but focused on retail. And the value was built in retail because consumer identified Manevar more than this manufacturing company. And I now, when I look at both companies, Manevar would be 2,000 times more valuable than this company. So this is what happens if you miss the lead, you're not able to grow an entire thing. You just stay and not able to later compete also, because you lost to competition, right? The third is you can clearly see growth. This happens with a lot of early stage companies, startups, or even interesting business models. They see growth, but they need capital. And capital comes from only three ways. One, you take debt. Second, equity. And third is franchise. The first two are difficult and very complex. Debt puts pressure on your balance sheet. First, your balance sheet has to have enough asset line to get the debt. But it puts the balance pressure on the balance sheet, because now cost of capital would first go to a bank, and then you will do profits. Your profits decline. And your valuation also goes down because now your debt ratios are gone up. Second, your equity. Now, equity is also not easy. And especially in current market, it's becoming difficult to get fresh equity because the equity is going back to the companies which already invested. So in investment cycle, if you see, there is a cycle when a lot of, blue ocean investments happen, right? Which means new ideas are always getting invested. And as the market becomes competitive and a lot of investments have gone in, the money cycle starts going back to the companies they've already invested, because they would need seek even more money. And that's how the quantum of money shifts. And this is the time where we're passing through that. And the third is, so now these days you don't hear everyday startups being funded. You hear the same company raised another round of another $500 million and things like that, because they now need seek more money for the startups which were done in the last decade. So if you have a lack of capital, then franchising can become a very strategic way of expansion, because it works on an OPM principle, other people money. Another thing which is very important is a lot of people, when they approach and tell them that, look, why don't you franchise? Their answer is, no, I cannot handle it. I don't have the right team. I feel that the business would have shrinkages. We will not be able to control. That's exactly when you franchise, because you need to have somebody who's equally involved and committed to your business. He's invested into your brand. So a lot of people don't expand because they find human resource challenges of operations and so on and so forth. And the best of the best people, because we run resale company also, sometimes we get an offer from somebody who says, look, I want to sell a business in Chennai. And I say, why do you want to sell it? Business is doing well. He says, no, but operationally, I cannot manage it. So operationally, sometimes outside your comfort zone, you cannot manage your direct business. And that's where you need an operational partner who put money and also become your partner at that unit and make that business happen, because he wants to recover his money. So there is a desire for a partner to do and whatever best needs to be done to get that money. Another thing which is very important is the innovation. How do you, if you have something innovative, and this is something which I personally love, I am very hungry for finding these disruptive ideas which can be scaled. If you have something like that, then don't wait for this to be copied by somebody else, because everything eventually get copied, right? So somebody would become a poor copy of that. So you need to really maximize that opportunity. You need to maximize that. And like I've spoken to the owner of Caventers today. I remember when they started, Caventer is a milkshake company, just for our friends outside, and a simple lying low milkshake company. And suddenly they got a chance to open up in a top class shopping mall in south of Delhi, and people loved it. And the brand was just trained. It was just one location which was just boomed. They didn't wait. They really saw the trend. They saw that there was no milkshake company, and they went all over. I think they run over 500 units across India, Middle East, and some other parts. And now they want to really expand globally. So sometimes the business model is, I mean, it's still not a great product, or I mean, sometimes it tells you, you tell yourself that I can make a better milkshake at home. But it's just about the packaging of the whole business model. It was so well, they took the position, they took the leadership. When you think milkshake, you think Aventus. So that is a kind of situation sometimes happens when you create or innovate something or package something which becomes out a very, very interesting business idea. So don't wait at that stage, because you will lose the whole excitement at that level. And I have realized that at excitement at that level, you cannot miss that opportunity. You need to leverage that opportunity at that stage. And finally, your product needs economy of scale, because franchising is also a great distribution idea. If I have 5 outlets to versus 50 outlets, I have everything more. I can attract better talent. I can do more marketing because a marketing dollar is better. I can do better social media. I can do everything better if I have economy of scale. Sometimes you're a small business and you're struggling on every front, and that's something which happens. Look, I sometimes talk to a restaurateur, and he runs 3 or 4 restaurants, and we will say, why don't you scale? Your business is great, your product is great. They will say, no, because I've always struggled with manpower. Manpower is not that easy. I say, it's not easy for you because you are just a 4 restaurant company. But it's very easy for McDonald's. It's very easy. And McDonald's pay half the salary which you pay. Because they are large corporations, they can afford to get the talent, they get the HR head, they have training capabilities, they skill people. They can do a lot more because they have their size and scale. So that's why small businesses struggle for smaller basic things, and a bigger things can manage much better structure. So friends, any question keeps coming to your mind, use the Q&A box, because the idea is to make it interactive. I don't want to just do one-side talk. And if you have any questions, I can take some few names. People have joined in. And Mr. Rahman, Anand, Mr. Balchandar, John, there's some Rexy, Sidesh, and a lot of other people. Please write your questions. I've just handpicked some names. And if you can just write what brings you to this webinar, what is your interest area? Are you looking to scale your franchise business? What is your industry? Anything which comes to your mind, use the Q&A box and just introduce yourself. Okay. Let's go the next slide, please. So these are 18 points which you need to make sure you're ready with if you want to get into a franchise. And these 18 points are divided into 6 blocks. All 6 are very critical. The first is obviously, how is your brand preference and engagement? How your brand is engaging with your customers. What is the kind of credibility you're enjoying? What kind of a PR is happening around you? What kind of awards, recognition you've got? And that all is very, very important. We did a fitness trainer in Bombay, and she was extremely recognized in the PR front. She was a page 3. She was always training Bollywood stars and cricket stars and so on and so forth. So the PR value was so high, while she had only one center running, that we were very confident that this can do extremely, extremely well. And it's a shame if you are sometime like that, you're very popular, you're doing something right, and you don't leverage your popularity. It's like Sanjeev Kapoor was just totally to me was not a chef. He became a more TV artist while he was a professional chef. But what he was doing on the channel had nothing to do with his culinary skills. When he started his restaurant chain and leveraged the restaurant chain and became one of the leading restaurants at that stage, that was leveraging his real capability and extending it to a product which was synonymous coming from a chef. So think about what kind of a brand and brand recall you have. Proven business systems and processes is very important. Before you franchise, you need to have your proven systems. You need to have prototype, your SOPs, your manuals, your strong vendor relationships. Then you need to also have a high financial performance. what kind of financial performance your business has, what is kind of past performance you've done, how your affordability of a franchisee would work, how your business is capitalized. All that is very, very important. So you need to really see why would a franchisee invest with you and stay with you for a very long period. That's very important, and how your balance sheet would be able to not only acquire but manage this network for years to come, and how you continue to capitalize your balance sheet. Then what is your management and leadership team? Who is your leadership structure? Who are the founder story? Who are the key management team and their experience? It's also very, very important. What is the organization design you have? And it's not that you can make a complex organization, but you need to define what is an organization structure. Your competition and market trends. What is your competition saying? Where is the market overcrowded, or it's not that crowded? What are the industry trends? What are the future demand forecast? Next 5 years, the business would grow. Your product and the product and innovation. What kind of innovation you are doing on the business model? Your change cycle, how you change your product and so on and so forth. So all this is also extremely, extremely important for you to do that. So within these 6 blocks, we work with you to create those defined capabilities which you need to do that. And I'll go on the next slide, and then we will be able to define that. But there is another question, I think. Rexy is from Husur and Multi-Skill Academy, and completed government projects too, and online classes, cosmetic science course, and online mode. Yeah, skilling is a very, very huge opportunity. Rexy, we should talk about it. I will let my 2 young colleagues who joined in, Isha and Ram, to set up a time, because this is space I am extremely, extremely keen, because India would become the skilling capital of the world. And with technology, we can scale this business and idiot-proof this business. Scale, and we are able to take it to multiple markets. Idiot-proof because the content would be delivered exactly as you like, and then it can be scaled, and you can do a lot on the work on this space. So I like the space, and let's talk about it and set some time for it. So quickly, because I have to do another meeting, and I will let the last on piece from the presentation to be done by Sonia, and what we do and how we offer our services and what we do that. I'll quickly, in the next 4 minutes, try to do this slide. So if we have to prepare a company to run on franchising, we obviously would define 4 critical blocks. I call the pillars of franchising. The first block is we call the PASS. And this is very, very important. This is foundational. It's a very foundational. So PASS stands for how you make the business model predictable. I call the science of franchising, which means triple M. First M stands for measurability of the business. Everything is measured. Second M stands for marketability of business. And third M stands for manageability of the business, which means that how you manage the network. But all this can bring in a form of predictability. People invest into businesses or any kind of asset class because they have higher predictability, right? So why you always invest into large caps or invest into blue chip companies? Because they have everything defined. They even define forecast. They have quarterly forecast, and they would continue to revise their numbers. More and more, they bring confidence to investors that their journey is going to. They don't add surprise end of the day, right? So you normally would know how a HDFC or ICICI largely going to perform, right? Because they have bringing in a great amount of predictability, or a Microsoft or likes of them. So predictability brings confidence and helps you to do this entirely. Second is accountability. How do you make the business model accountable between stakeholders? The obligations are very well defined. Third is standardization. You need to standardize everything in your business model. And fourth is scalability. Build business where you can scale to a very, very high number. Look at businesses like Titan Industries. Now, Titan is going not only to India, but they're taking to the world. They're opening stores in US, they're opening stores in GCC, they're opening stores in Asia, Southeast Asia. So this is how a business model can be scalable. And this is what Americans do very well. They know how to scale the business and take it to the world. Second block is, I call it the triple C. Triple C means you bring in controls on the systems, all the processes, all capabilities are controls, your compliances, and your consumer connect. How you connect with the customer. Customer walks into a Nike store, doesn't want to know who owns a Nike store. His engagement or her engagement is with the Nike. That's what is very, very important. The third block is air, how you make the business model attractive, how you make a business model investor ready, and how you show that you are hedging the risk. You cannot remove the risk, but you're hedging the risk because you're well prepared. You're well prepared for the business, you're well prepared for the franchisee, and you're well prepared for that location. And finally, it's ERR, what we call the encourage, recognize, and reward your franchise. Because people, after some time, just don't work for money. ROI is a myth. They work for recognition, belongingness, peer-to-peer capabilities. All these are very important aspect. I know a lot of people stick to a particular brand because they feel that they are in the safer place or safer world. I see this in Tata's group. People sometimes sign with the very, very small returns, and I get surprised why they would do it. Like we manage one of the Tata portfolio company, and the loyalty towards the brand is very high because one thing in very sure that you're working with a very safe company. You're working with, I would not use the word safe company, but somebody more transparent and trusted brand. If it is going to go wrong, it will not be intentional. So you feel that you are much safer in that environment. You are safer in businesses and brands which show that transparency and capability, and that all comes from consistent engagement with your franchise network. So I always believe that is a line written on the bottom. Franchising is a careful organizational design to attract ongoing investment and build sustainability in network. It's a combination of these two things: how you constantly bring ongoing investors in your business, and how you bring a larger sustainability to the business model. So friends, this was something which I wanted to share, and I will be very happy to take all your questions. These two young colleagues of mine, Ram and Isha, are responsible for setting up any calls because they are the ones who interact with you. We are available in, as Sonia said, 90 plus cities in India, 9 countries. So most of the locations, most of the places I travel also, at least bigger cities and some international locations every month. And if there is an opportunity to meet, more than happy to meet that. We have 2 more slides to go, which I think I'll request Sonia and Deepak is also back in the screen, so he also can be part of it, and they can give you a little bit of understanding on what we do. I'll take one more question from Mr. Rahman. He says, I'm glad to attend the webinar. Oh, thank you very much for Mr. Rahman to come in. I am beverage industry. I am here to write inside scope of business, and we will like to. Yes, absolutely. Actually, the world's biggest brand of franchise is Coca-Cola. People think it is some other brand, but it's actually Coke is the world's #1 brand when it comes to, and it is a beverage brand. So you can see almost everything. And somebody said dairy. Dairy is one of the largest franchise concepts in India. Amul runs about 19,000 franchisees. Mother Dairy, which is our client. Amul is our client. Mother Dairy is our client. And Mother Dairy runs another 10, 12,000. Even a brand like a Nandini in Bangalore runs about 9,000 franchisees. Yes, it is obviously very complex. It's a very large industry. It's a 10 lakh crore industry, one of the largest industry contributors, being an agro product run by cooperatives who incidentally do a good job. Cooperatives are not known for do good job, but fortunately in the dairy business, because of the Amul story and the Mr. Kurian's contribution, he bring a big competition that if I can do it, every other cooperative works hard to become an Amul. So it brings the industry levels up, and all because of that man, because he built a great foundation and great industry. But it's a lot is happening in the private space, especially it's a very subscription business. So if you open up stores and create a subscription model where people can subscribe and continue to do that, so you can do D2C, you can do retail, and you can also do subscription. But milk alone is just a loss leader. It's the products along with it makes a lot of sense. Like we did a private company out of Bombay, and they have the brand was Sindh Punjab. And it was not a big company, it was a small company, but the value-added products were very good. In Bombay, they were able to, as a private dairy, able to sustain, and this is sustaining, and not only Bombay, but they're in Hyderabad, Pune, Bombay, and I think Goa, some other locations. We built the franchise model for them. And very small company, it's not a very big company. And then we have done many brands. We've done Gopal's in Delhi, and then these are all private dairy operators who have a good success in their different markets. But value-added product is very, very important. I will love to understand, somebody mentioned dairy. I would like to understand what you do on the dairy front and what products you have. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time today, and really appreciate you taking time out. And we will take it from there. Over to you, Sonia and Deepak.
Amit, can we go to the next slide, please? And we'll take another 5-7 minutes to talk about the broader services that come as a value proposition from collectively our group companies. And this is divided into broadly 5 sections that you see. One is advisory. We talked at length in terms of how to build a sustainable business model. And there are the following components. The first piece is building a strategy, which talks about, what kind of profile of people we need, what kind of business model we need to create, what kind of markets we need to go, what kind of competition are we considering. And this is both apple to apple and apple to orange comparison. There's a complete competitive analysis which is done in this stage. And once this piece is done, because strategy forms the foundation of the entire advisory or consulting piece, once this is established, then we work on the financial business model, which is the investment required, the kind of royalties that needs to be charged, the franchise fee component, the margins which come into play, the typical ROI, for a business. So that comes as a part of our financial, and then comes your operational manual, which is your standard operating processes, which is from the opening of an outlet or a center to the closing. All that is captured in the manuals, because manuals are extremely critical to be integrated, because all our agreements which are made in franchising are made with the premise that the franchise partner will actually follow every single guideline which is put in the manual. So it is critical that our manuals are standardized and well formed, and that franchisee is trained on these manuals. And then comes the legal draft, which are legal agreements, franchisor and a franchisee agreement, especially in countries like Bangladesh, India. We work on a British contract. So, the guidelines or the contract itself becomes a binding between the partners. It has to be a very watertight agreement, because these are long-term agreements which start minimum of 5 years and eventually, would get renewed in the times to come. And lastly is the marketing communication, which is your B2B communication, which comes in the form of your franchise kit, your communication in form of email blasts, and communications which go in when you participate in exhibitions or events. So all that is something which is done by our team at FranCorp. If you see the 5 elements which are put, these are 5 different departments, under FranCorp that work together to put all this documentation in place. And then comes your brand communication, which also includes working with you on the entire strategy, where we also help you to get some PR companies where you can liaise with. And then comes the most important engine, which is the distribution I talked about, 97 cities, 9 countries, depending on the rollout that we have. Our teams at Franchise India, the marketing team, works on the profile of the partners. We understand the investment which is required, the territories, the time involvement of a franchise partner. So the lead generation is based on that. And further, this is also filtered, and there are stages of filtration, which I talked about. We understand the fitment of a franchisee. And this can be different for different businesses. Some of the franchisors have a very big requirement, or I would say a parameter, which is maybe a property. For example, it could be for somebody investment in place. For somebody, it could be operations, which is a top qualifying criteria. So depending on the qualifying criteria, our lead management team actually filters all the requirements. And once these leads are filtered based on the 4 fitments, which is strategic fit, which could be the profile of the franchisee, maybe similar background, it could be location which he owns. Second is the operational fitment, which is the time involved in the business. Third is the market fitment, which is the rollout. And financially is financial fitment, which is the 4th parameter, which includes also his working capital and the initial investment availability with him. So these are 4 parameters under which our filtration of our investor profiling is done, and which is followed by a selection process. Now, when we come to selection process, we arrange discovery days where these qualified investors are brought in for one-to-one meeting or maybe a Zoom meeting, virtual meeting, or physical meeting with the brand leadership team, the management who's representing from the brand side, and further followed through to sign up the agreement. So this is how the entire 5 stages work out. Next slide. So these are, I think somebody had asked, how it actually works. Now, we also understand when we work with companies, we work with different set of companies. Some of them are startups, some of them are at different stages of their a life cycle. So based on what kind of rollout you're looking at, what kind of timeline you're looking at, there are 4 different, I would say, the segments under which our offering has been designed. And this has been done very, very carefully based on the stage of the business, which starts with Fran Start. This is our initial, I would say, the basic program of business development, where we work with our franchisors to do the entire consulting program and, launch them in market. And this is largely relevant for companies who are looking at expansion within their market, right? Maybe 1 or 2 cities or within their market. FranGrow is a program where the company might be looking at anything upwards of 10 to 15 locations in a year. And this might be, for example, a state, maybe looking at Karnataka in India, or maybe a state outside. So it can be as big as maybe a couple of cities together or a state in totality. And then comes Fran Axle, which is generally taken up by companies who want to grow or scale up, on a bigger region, So not a state, but maybe a region, for example, a West India or a South India, and similarly, international markets. And the last is Fran Max. So the typical companies that come here are companies which are present in larger geographies, but they need a deeper penetration. There are certain virgin geographies where they want to be in. So these companies are largely looking for a pan-India penetration, right, and an expansion. So this is what if you want to take a screenshot, we'll be happy to even share these offering in details. On the left-hand side, the blue highlighted portion, you see all the deliverables that come under. So maybe you can take that and process that to understand all the deliveries. Next slide, please. Great, guys. I think this is what we had. I think we already covered all these, which includes any kind of property selection services which are required. We can help you with that. Legal, I already covered. And we also do, a scoring for franchisors based on, their criteria. So there's a 12-point criteria under which we create a scorecard for companies on their franchisability. So these are some other services that we offer, but this is what we had to present today. I'll request all of you who are looking for more information to kindly reach out to us. We have shared our coordinates and email ID. And Deepak, would you want to say maybe a last message from you before we close?
Sure. Thank you, Sonia ma'am. And I hope, guys, that you must have got a understanding on what it requires to become franchise ready. What stage, is it a right stage for you to franchise or not? And both our colleague and me, myself, are available for any detailed discussion which you want to have or get an understanding on your franchise business. More than happy. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Sonia ma'am. Thank you, Ram. Thank you.